Welcome to Spam Filter for Your Brain, bite-sized ponderings on how our thoughts influence our behaviour and our lives, and because we're all connected, how our thoughts impact the world. I'm here to help people reconnect with their bodies and declutter their brains. And I don't believe that we should just magically know how our emotions and our thoughts impact our lives if no one ever teaches us. So let's learn this stuff together. Something I've noticed on coaching calls is that often people's relationship with money is the same as their relationship with time. If these themes are things that you struggle with in either areas of your life, this week's episode is going to be one for you. Quite often when I speak to people and we are talking about scarcity, there is one particular theme that they look at, and it is normally time or money. And I have noticed a theme that comes up repeatedly in many of the coaching calls that I do is that whatever we're talking about actually reflects in more than one area of their life. And this week, to just try and give you some prompts and some questions and maybe some thought reframes that might be useful for you. Somewhere where this might show up as a time example for you is that you might say yes to something that you don't really want to do, or you might say yes to something when you know that you don't have time for anything else, and yet someone makes that request of you and you say yes nonetheless. And you're going to notice a through thread coming through some of these ideas. But an example that it might come up with money is that you buy something that is essential for your needs, and then you give yourself a hell of a hard time for having done that. Or you might buy something just because you want to, but some of the shine and the glitteriness of the thing that you really wanted is tainted by the way that you speak to yourself after you've got it. Or maybe that shows up in a work example. You undercharge for your work because you're worried about talking about money with other people, and you're worried about beginning those conversations about how your time and your money are worth something to somebody else. And I invite you to think about where these scenarios play out for you. Where is your thought about time scarcity, about money scarcity? When you have these common thoughts, think about a scenario recently where this might have come up for you, and think about the thing that you were telling yourself about that story. What is the thought that is causing you the most suffering, the most anxiety, the most amount of stress? Just hang on to that lightly if you're safe and able to do so, just for a couple of seconds. Where does it show up in your body? Does it give you sweaty palms? Does it make your chest a bit tight? Does it make your jaw tighten? Where do you find that this story that you're telling yourself, the thought that is causing you the problems, where does this sit in your body? Just taking that 1 second to stop and notice and seeing where it registers within you clicks in a different part of your brain, and it takes you out of the thought that can quite easily spiral into dismay. And I've found with both time and money, there are a whole load of thoughts that seem to loop for many people, and they show up in both areas. They are thoughts like, I should be able to handle this. Other people need this more than me. I'm not allowed to take this. I'm not allowed to take up space. Someone else deserves it more than me. I'll deal with this later. If I close my eyes, this isn't actually happening. I shouldn't spend that on myself. I shouldn't take that time for myself. It belongs to somebody else. Other people deserve it way more than I do. I'll just squeeze it in. I'll just fit this extra thing in, and rounding it all off with, it's fine, I'll deal with it. I don't know if you can spot the pattern that runs through all of these thoughts, but if you were to stick a little skewer right through the middle of all of them, the thing that it comes down to is minimizing your needs. It's postponing your own self-care. It is shrinking any space that you might feel like you could take up, or frankly, that you deserve to take up, and minimizing your own needs in the hope that you're going to be able to do more things for other people, most likely, so that you can feel like you're a good person. And why do we want to feel like good people? Because then we can stop saying some of the horrible things to ourselves that undermines so much of the stuff that steals our hope and our dreams. The reason we do this stuff for other people, the reason that we try and micromanage their emotions, is so that we can quieten down some of the noise of some of the really horrible things that we say to ourselves, that inner critic which is constantly criticizing your daily moves. If you can do enough things for other people, we think that we're going to be able to tone down the volume on that. And so this week, I just wanted to offer you a few reframes just to see if they might be useful for you, different thoughts that you could try on and see if they might ease some of that tightness and some of those feelings that you're feeling in your body. Take the ones that are useful for you and leave the rest. I thought I would offer these as a little platter that you can collect things from, which may be useful. One of the things that I find most useful as a thought and an anchor is that time and money are not moral tests. They're resources, and you're allowed to use them any which way that you choose. Try on the thought that my needs are not an inconvenience. Your needs are information. Try on the thought I'm allowed to make choices before there's a crisis. That one's a wild notion. One that can be really good at interrupting the pattern of internalized productivity culture is I don't need to justify why I need more time or more rest. Not to you and not to anybody else. And one which is really lovely to take into any areas of your life just to try on. Sometimes it's going to feel a bit uncomfortable, and sometimes it's going to feel a bit more expansive. And that's this isn't an indulgence, this is sustainability. These sentences aren't meant to fix anything. They're just meant to give you a little bit of an awareness in your body and a little bit of ease from some of the background noise that we are incessantly talking to ourselves, telling ourselves that we're getting it wrong. We're not trying to get to this brilliant goal of everything is light and rosy and I am able to manifest my way to the perfect amount of time and money that I want. And honestly, if I had the cure, I would give you that magic wand. But I find getting to these thoughts and identifying the things that create a little bit more ease in your days is a way to be able to attain neutrality, which feels like it isn't that much of a step forward. But actually, it's everything. Because if we can just get onto a level playing field, we can decide where we want to go. The thing is that if we have scarcity in our minds about money or about time, it's going to show up in other areas of our life. It's going to show up in our work life. It's going to show up in our relationships. It's going to show up in the way that we speak to our bodies. It's going to show up in the way that we allow ourselves any kind of praise or congratulations for any of the progress that we're making. This feeling of scarcity is rooting down to this idea and this fear that maybe we're not good enough. And the way that we treat ourselves in regards to time and the way that we treat ourselves in regards to money really emphasizes some of the thoughts that we have going on in the background about the way that we feel about ourselves. Learning some of these new thoughts and just expanding and practicing what you can do to take yourself out of being feeling really tight and trapped in some of these narratives can just allow ourselves a little bit more space to explore where we might be able to trust ourselves, where some of the things that have gone on in the past or the stories that we've told ourselves don't have to be the only narrative that we offer. Because I've noticed when you treat your time as disposable, you quite often treat your money that way too. And you quite often treat yourself as disposable in relationships. You quite often treat those extra little bits of hours and time and offerings that you give to work as just not that important. Quite often, when you think that you have to earn rest, you also tell yourself that you have to earn financial safety as well. And you'll notice that these kind of goalposts, especially in regards to money, it's always a little bit more. It's not if I got to this particular place, I would feel safe within myself and things would be easy. It's an ever changing horizon that you're always chasing. And that really is often replicated in things towards body image too. I always need to be a little bit thinner, a little bit younger, a little bit more attractive. It's worth chasing that goal, never actually reaching it. And when you avoid looking at your calendar, when you cram as much stuff in there as possible, I'm guessing that you probably struggle to look at your bank balance too. You might be someone who doesn't necessarily keep tabs on the bills that are coming in, the incomings and outgoings. And maybe you're someone who feels really obliged to try and pay for everybody's food in the restaurant without feeling like you can have a discussion about it. These kind of things just mirror and replicate in different areas of our lives. And in self care school, this is where we try and notice that those seeds have been planted and where they're showing up in the different areas of our life and maybe holding us back from the kind of lives that we want to be living and the people that we want to be. When you overgive your time, you underinvest in your own needs, you undervalue yourself. And by doing so, you also reflect to other people that that is the way that they should treat you, but also in a way that you think it's okay to treat people. You just happen to be that person. When you overgive money, when you are over generous, when you are offering things to other people that you might not necessarily be able to afford, that is to try and avoid any kind of communication around money. And that is never going to serve you well. Quite often, what we label as generosity, that we label as kindness towards other people, is actually quite simply discomfort in the fact that we are not willing to have any conversations about money and don't have the confidence to be able to have that experience and literacy to consider that our needs are also important. All roads lead back to the same story. My needs come last. I'm not as important as other people. And if I do these things, if I give all of this stuff away, you might not notice that I'm not good enough. My humble opinion, the person listening to this is that you're probably not bad with time and you're probably not bad with money. It's just that you've been taught to deprioritize yourself because most of us have. And I wonder what might come up for you if you were to explore the thought that you're allowed to have enough, that you're allowed to want things, you're allowed to have needs. Where does that land in your body? Are you able to sit with that for a minute, even if it feels uncomfortable? There's some questions to ask yourself this week. Where are you refusing to believe that you're allowed ease? What area of your life? Is it time? Is it money? Is it something else? Where do you apologize for the time that you take or the time that you want? Which part of you has been waiting for permission here? Where are you making yourself smaller to try and be more agreeable? And what would change if you believed that resourcing yourself wasn't selfish, but actually was the key to sustainability? Choose one sentence today that feels a little bit kinder than some of the narratives that you've been telling yourself, and just see where that feels and where that fits. This has been useful. There are a whole load of free resources and workbooks in the show notes underneath the podcast and on YouTube in the show notes there. There are workbooks on perfectionism, on time management, on money mindset. There's loads of free resources that are available to you. And of course, this is what we do on the group calls and self-care school. So please do look at what is available and you can always drop me a message. And if you would like to do some one-to-one coaching on this, I would be more than happy to try and look at where we can expand the things that are available to you in your life without making it more pressured and without making it one more thing on your to-do list. Let's look at what is already there and the ways that you speak to yourself about it and see how that could feel like it had more joy and more ease in it. I look forward to speaking to you next week. If you've been enjoying what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love Self-Care School. Self-Care School is longer versions of this, more in-depth and more personalised. We have a whole hub of courses from body image to boundaries, perfectionism, time management, and a whole range of other topics. You name it, there's probably a course on it. But most importantly, we also have a weekly group coaching call where you get to apply this stuff to your everyday life and get support to try and untangle your own story from some of the emotions that you might not be enjoying in your life. If you would like to learn how to apply this work to your specific situation and to be building a life of your dreams, I would love to see you inside. Do pop over to selfcareschool.co.uk.